Hello, wonderful people. You welcome once again to the Style Made Simple by Dressens channel, your one-stop fashion school or fashion academy for learning in the easiest of ways how to cut out your simple outfits without patterns. Now, today's tutorial is going to be a very quick one and a very easy one. We're going to learn how to cut out a very simple flared skirt. It's nothing complicated or difficult at all. It's very straightforward with easy to follow processes and stitching techniques. So before I really do the cutting on the fabric, I'm going to do a little demonstration on an A4 sheet on how to lay out the fabric. We're going to be using 3 yards of fabric and we're going to cut both the front and the back on that 3 yards, but from different angles. Now I'm going to use the A4 sheets for the purposes of demonstration and explanation, so that when I get to the fabric and I'm cutting out, the camera may not be able to pick out all the extreme angles. So with the explanation on the A4 sheet, you may not get the angles from the camera, but you would be able to understand and follow me. I hope this video helps. So let's get cutting. Hello, so you're welcome to our little demonstration of how we're going to do the layout of the fabric. We're going to cut one part of the skirt from this side, and then we're going to be cutting the other side, the back, from here. So like I said, probably when I'm working out on the main fabric, the camera might not pick out all the angles, so I want to do the demo on the fabric, so when you are cutting out, you know exactly what to do. At this end of the fabric where we have the fold, you're going to be measuring your quarter waist plus an extra allowance for seam. So if your quarter waist, we are using 30 as our waist measurement, so our quarter waist will be 7.5. So you mark out 8.5 along here like this. So what you have here should be equal to what you have here. And then you're going to take the length of 23 downwards, 23 downwards, 23 downwards, 23 downwards. Okay, so when you are done, you're going to mark out the hem of the skirt. That's it, very simple. So this is the waistline, this is the hemline, and then we're going to cut out. You're going to cut out. And then cut out the waist. So that's it. This will be the front part of the skirt. Okay, so then once you're done cutting, the fabric is going to be something like this. So you're going to put this at this end here, like this. So it's two opposite ends, here and here. You leave 1 inch extension for your zip allowance. You mark around and then you cut out. So that's how simple it is. When you're done, you're going to have a little bit of extra space here or extra fabric here to sew a crop top or a simple top to match the skirt. So that's how simple it's going to be. Thank you very much. Now let's move on and go and cut our fabric. You're welcome to the second segment where we are going to do the actual cutting. So we are going to start with cutting out or marking out the waistline and the length of the skirt. Those are the two measurements we need. We'll cut the front piece from this side and then use the front piece to cut out from the other end. Now we are going to measure our quarter waist. So your quarter waist plus 1 inch extra for sewing. And mark it out in a slight curve. If you have a French curve, you can use it for shaping it out with ease or shaping it out beautifully. The next thing will be to mark the length of 23. We are checking the measurements for the waist. It is 8 inches, which is okay for me. So the next thing is the waist measurement. Length of 23 across the hem. You mark out all the measurements and then connect the dots and then cut out with the scissors. So that's your waistline and that's your hemline. Very easy to cut out, nothing complicated. When you are done, you cut it out and place it at the other end and cut out the back. So time to cut out the waistline now. Cutting the piece off so we can have a waistline, and then cutting out the hem. So for tips on how to cut out or cutting out tips, please watch my video on cutting techniques. Now, cut out with long or large and even strokes. Once that is done, you're going to open it up and then we'll see what we are getting. For now, we are going to be cutting the back. So I'll place this piece onto the back for us to see how it's looking like. This is the front piece open out, so you can see what it looks like. That's the waistline, the side seams. Once you open it up, this is what it's going to be looking like. You have all the flutes coming out and the flesh showing beautifully. So now you lay out the front piece on the other part of the material to cut out for the back. So you lay out in such a way that you also leave an extra allowance at the edge for zip extension. So you're using the same waistline. You don't need to draft and mark with a chalk again. Now notch your extra allowance left there for zip extension. That is supposed to be your zip extension. So now you're also going to cut out the hem the same way the front is. So they are both taking on the same shape. So cut out with long or large and even strokes, and that will be it. It is so simple, nothing complicated or too difficult for you to handle. A little piece of extra material for a crop top or something else to sew. So that's it. We have our front and then we have our two back pieces. Now time to mark out our wrong sides. Very important to mark out your wrong sides and your right sides before sewing, so you are able to identify your pieces. So that's the front piece marked wrong side for one part of the back, wrong side for the other part of the back. So now we are done. We are working on our design elements now. I have this piece that I'm going to use, cut out as crossways strips and use for decorative facing for the edge of the skirt. Now I'm cutting it on the cross because I need the stretching quality. It's normally not advisable to cut out on a straight piece. No, you're supposed to cut out on the cross because the cross will give you the stretchability to mold around the round edge or the round hem of the skirt. So I'm cutting it out in 3-inch width. Don't throw your scrap of materials away, your scrap of fabrics, leftovers. Don't throw them away. They come in handy for projects like this when you want a little touch of color or a little bit of design element somewhere. That is when these scraps of fabric come in handy. So I'm cutting out my strips now and I'm going to be joining them. So this is the combination I have: a splash of yellow and green on top of the red. Wow, they're looking like the Ghana colors, red, gold, green. So the green and the yellow will bring a lot of color on the red and make the work beautiful. Time to cut out our skirt band now. I'm using my waist measurements and I usually do not like too big bands. If you have a very slim midriff, you can go for bigger bands, but usually my bands are at most 2 inches. So that's it. The length of it is like 32. So 30 for my waist and 2 extra inches for overlapping. So this is what we have. I'm now joining my crossway strips, and I'll end up having one long strip that I'm going to be using for the hem of the skirt. So you see the edges are diagonal, and that's how I'm going to be joining the pieces according to the diagonal cut. You don't have to straighten it up. You are going to join, you don't straighten it up, you join the other piece, use the diagonal edge and cross it over this. So you have one straight piece and the other piece goes across. So you put the two diagonal edges together like this. You can pin it if you want to before you stitch. So I put them together like this, and then I stitch. So that's what I'm going to be doing to all the extra pieces I have until I have one long stretch. So I'm going to be stitching this whole thing together, put the pieces together to have one long stretch. Then I would begin to apply it as a decorative facing on the hem of the skirt. So I'm done with the last piece. So this is the long stretch of joined crosswaist strips that I'll be using for my design elements. Time to join my skirt together. I'm joining the front pieces to the back pieces. I'm only joining the sides, the left hand side seam and the right hand side seam. For now, I'm not joining the zip extension. I'm only joining the sides. So that's the side I'm joining. Once I'm done, I'll press out the piece and then begin to apply my facing. So join both sides, the left hand side of the seam and the right hand side of the seam. So you have the back piece joined to the front, but it's still open at the zip area because you haven't joined the zip extension. Time to press out my seams now. I'm pressing it nice and flat, and I'm also pressing the seams of the crosswaist strips so there'll be no bulk once I apply it onto the skirt. Everything should be flat, so there'll be no bulkiness anywhere. That's it, my long stretch for my decorative facing. I'm applying my interfacing to my skirt band. I'm using violin as interfacing. I have left 1/2 inch at the edge before placing the violin. So you move the pressing iron slowly so the steam can really release the sticky substance on the violin onto the fabric. And once that is done, the 1/2 inch left at the edge, you fold it over to cover the violin. So that will be the end that you use for top stitching when you apply the band onto the skirt. This method of band fixing is very easy and makes the band very neat. So then you fold the band into two like this and then press again. So you can have a roll line at the center or a fold. So once you are done pressing, you still have a little bit of 1/2 inch left at the edge. Yeah, there should be a little 1/2 inch left at the edge to pick the raw edge of the skirt. So once you pick the raw edge, then you flip the band over and then top stitch. I'm now applying my decorative facing onto the skirt. I place the facing on the wrong side and I'm stitching on the wrong side, and then later on I'll be turning it onto the right side. So please make sure you place it the same way. Place the decorative facing on the wrong side, stitch, and then when you are done, we are going to be turning it to the right side. We press it and then work on the raw edge and do our top stitching. So I'm done with the first seam. I'm trimming the excess of, I only had enough for the front, I didn't have enough for the back, so I'm only working on the front. So I'm pressing the seam flat now before I fold the edges in. You have to press each unit of work as you progress. So I'm going to be pressing the whole stretch to the very end. It's very important to always keep your work flat and neat. Now I'm done. I'm pressing the fold in. I'm folding the raw edge in. I'm finishing the band, the decorative band I'm doing. If it's a bit trickish, you can give it some snippets or cuts or little trims to be able to fold it without any creases or any bulkiness in. So you fold it in, the edges in neatly, and then you continue your pressing. So by the time you're done, you realize that everything is very flat. What I'm going to be doing now is to top stitch at both ends. stitch very close to the edge, and when I'm done with that, I'll also stitch the other end so the facing will stay on the fabric. So 1/4 of an inch from the outer edge and then 1/4 of an inch from the inner edge. So I'm doing the top stitching on the folded edge now, right through to the end. So that's a splash of bright colors at the border of the skirt to make the skirt look a bit interesting. We don't want any boring flared skirts, do we? That's done. Now I'm going to stitch the hem of the back part of the skirt because I didn't do any decorative facing there. I'm done with that stitching now, and I'm joining my zip extension now. I'm joining my zip extension so I can press and then fix my zip. So that's the space I have left, about 10 inches allowance to take the zip. For tutorials on how to attach a zip or fix a zip like a pro, please refer to my video on fixing a zipper like a pro. I'm done with the zip and I'm now attaching the band right around the waist. So I'm done with the band, and then I'm top stitching the band in place now. It's so easy. It wasn't too difficult to do. All you have to do is to just practice. We are done. The zip in place, the band in place, ready for fastenings. And that's it. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to the Dressens channel and then hit the notification button so you get updates. Thank you and God bless you. Bye.